For as long as I can remember, we've been taught to measure our health by one single, sometimes scary number on a scale. It's so simple, right? But our bodies, well, they're anything but simple. So today, we are going way beyond that number to get a much more complete picture of what it really means to be healthy. I'm willing to bet you've had your body mass index, or BMI, calculated at some point. It's been the gold standard for years. But what if I told you that this one-size-fits-all number might be leaving out some pretty huge parts of your own personal health story? Okay, so to really get where health measurement is going, we've got to understand the problems with where it's been. So let's dive right in and break down the big issue with BMI. So what is BMI anyway? Well, the calculation is actually super simple. It's just a ratio of your weight to your height. But that simplicity, that's also its biggest weakness. It has absolutely no way of telling the difference between a pound of dense, hard-earned muscle and a pound of body fat. And this is where it all kind of falls apart. Just imagine a professional athlete, totally ripped, incredibly muscular, very little body fat. Now picture someone with the exact same height who doesn't work out and has a high percentage of body fat. Here's the crazy part. According to BMI, they could both be labeled overweight or even obese, all because muscle is heavier than fat. It just completely misses the whole picture of what their bodies are actually made of. So if BMI is sort of the flawed character in this story, then who's the hero? Well, let's move on, because there's a newer metric that's changing the whole conversation. It focuses less on how much we weigh and way more on our actual shape. Okay, so here's the big shift in thinking. BMI is totally obsessed with how much you weigh for how tall you are. But the Body Roundness Index, or BRI, it cares more about your body's shape and its girth. It's like we're moving from a flat, two-dimensional number to a much more three-dimensional, real-world understanding of our bodies. So this BRI idea came from a mathematician named Diana Thomas back in 2013. She pictured the human body not as a straight up and down cylinder, which is kind of how the BMI model sees it, but more like an ellipse or an egg. By using your waist circumference and your height, it calculates a score that gives a much better idea of where you carry body fat, which it turns out is a way more accurate predictor of health risks. Okay, but here's the real question. Does this new measurement actually matter? Well, according to a 2024 study, oh yeah, it absolutely does. They found that people with a high BRI score, we're talking 6.9 or more, had up to a 49% increased risk of death from any cause compared to people with an average score. Wow, that is a massive sign that our shape really, really matters. Of course, just measuring our bodies is only one piece of the puzzle, right? What we put into them is just as important. So let's switch gears and talk about the fuel we use, and we're going to focus on one of the most misunderstood things out there, fat. The Heart Foundation makes this super clear. Not all fats are created equal. It's not even close. So on one side, you've got the good guys, the healthy monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. Think avocados, nuts, olive oil, fatty fish like salmon. These guys actually help your heart. Then, on the other side, you've got the unhealthy, saturated and trans fats. This is your fatty meats, butter, and a lot of processed foods, which can increase your risk of heart disease. And really, this quote from the Heart Foundation just nails it. The big takeaway here isn't about going low fat. It's all about going right fat. Making really simple swaps like, say, using avocado on your toast instead of butter, or grabbing a handful of nuts instead of a bag of chips. Those little changes can have a huge impact in your health down the road. All right, get ready for a plot twist. We spend so much of our time talking about losing weight, but for a lot of people, the goal is the exact opposite. So now let's look at the often forgotten challenge of gaining weight the healthy way. Yeah, gaining weight isn't just about eating a bunch of junk food. As sources like eatright.org point out, there are tons of valid health reasons for it. It could be an athlete trying to build muscle for their sport, an older adult who's lost weight without meaning to, or someone who's recovering from a serious illness. For them, gaining weight is actually a vital step toward feeling strong and healthy again. So, how do you do it the right way? Well, there's a clear roadmap. The name of the game is nutrient density. You want to aim for smaller, more frequent meals and add about 300 to 500 extra healthy calories a day. That means adding concentrated calories from things like nuts, cheese, and avocados, not from sugary drinks and junk food. And here's a pro tip. Drink your high-calorie shakes or milk between meals so you don't get full before you've even started eating your actual food. And this leads us perfectly into our final section. Because whether you're trying to gain weight or you just want to change how your body is composed, for a lot of us, the goal is building muscle. So let's get into the science of how that actually works. This quote from a review in Frontiers in Nutrition is pretty mind-blowing. It's saying that just by eating more calories, by being in an energy surplus, your body gets an anabolic signal. That's basically a green light for building muscle. Now, exercise is still king for sure, but this just shows you how critical it is to have enough fuel in the tank for the whole process to even start.
So, let's put the whole recipe together. It's 3 key ingredients. First, you need the stimulus. That's your resistance training. Second, you need the building blocks. And that means getting enough protein, since our muscles are literally made of the stuff. And third, you need the fuel, a steady supply of energy, which usually means eating more calories than you burn. You need all 3 of those working together to really grow muscle effectively.
But let's be super clear about one thing. You can't just drink protein shakes and expect to get stronger. The single most important factor, the biggest trigger for growth, is the actual work you put in. The resistance training itself is what kicks the whole muscle-building machine into gear. Wow, we have covered a lot today, from why BMI doesn't tell the whole story, to why the type of fat you eat is so important, all the way to the science of building muscle. And it all points to a much more personal, nuanced view of health. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. If you forget the numbers for a second, what does a strong, functional, and healthy body truly look and feel like to you?